I call to order the Torch Lake Township Special Working Session Board Meeting of September 24th, 2021 at 1:23 p.m. The primary purpose of this meeting is to discuss the agenda items listed below. No additional township business will be accepted at this meeting. Our first item on the agenda is public comment. Any public comment? I hear none. Our prior meeting minutes were approved at our past board meetings, so we will not discuss those. Our next item is approval of the agenda. I would like to make a couple of adjustments. Item 3, I would like to add review of policy 1.0, 2.0 in front of policies 3.0 and 4.0. Are there any other changes to the agenda? 1.0 and 2.0. All right, hearing none, I make the motion to accept the agenda as presented with changes. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
It is moved and seconded to accept the agenda as presented with changes. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Moving to the purpose of this meeting. As a reminder, we will not be spending time going over the policies on a line-by-line basis. Rather, we will address any questions you may have as to what was written. As to the process, we will review each of the 4 items. If an item does not have any questions or reworked items are reviewed with no further questions, then it will be assumed the item has been reviewed and ready to be added to the resolution package, which will be used to pass all of the policies. If an item has questions, we will resolve those items during this session so that we can move it to the resolution package. If a consensus is not reached, but there is a majority who agree with the final changes, then we will move it to the resolution package. Policy 3.0, if approved, I will work with our HR specialist to ensure there is no conflict with our employee handbook. If there is a conflict, once the policies are adopted, we will reconcile open items with the handbook and make the necessary changes and move for approval with the board. First item is to review the changes made to policy 1.0. If I remember correctly, the change was a typo that required a space, I think, between township and the parentheses TLT. Are there any other comments?
No.
If not, then I will say that policy 1.0 will have been reviewed and is now moved to the resolution package. On to the next item. We will review the changes made to policy 2.0. Bob and I went through this yesterday and we coordinated our changes, and I think the best process here is to take his revised copy, compare it to what your notes may say from our previous copy to ensure that we have captured everything. And in order to make this thing run smoothly, I'll let Bob start and go through it. And if you have something that was not addressed, if you would just raise your hand or ask to jump in, we will incorporate it. And with that, Bob, it's yours.
Thank you. The copy of 2.0 policy proposals should have my initials, RDS, and today's date in the upper right-hand side in blueprint. There were a number of questions, as you recall, and so we tried to address each thing. But we had suggestions starting with 2.4. The fourth line, the word date was suggested, I think, by Sharon, if I recall. And so that was inserted. If you turn the page, that there's a paragraph in blue below public notice of meetings that says the board decrees all public bodies, including subcommittees, advisory committees, and liaison committees are to comply with the posting requirements of the Michigan Open Meetings Act unless otherwise stated at the time the committee is appointed. And that was Bob Cook's concern. And he mentioned that he wanted that terminology in the proposal. Moving on to the next blue verbiage, it's down at the bottom in the last sentence of the next paragraph. And it's a phrase, "and shall also be posted on the township's website." It talks about meeting or hearing notices. And it said they must be posted in these two locations in the township. But that verbiage adds that they'll also be posted on the township's website.
Okay.
And so turning the page, and just stop me if you need
Yep,
some.
no, keep rolling.
I'll keep rolling here otherwise, okay. Page 4.
No, page 3, Bob.
Did I miss one? Yes.
Oh.
Down toward the bottom of the page, above the alphabetical listing of things, the last sentence, we changed the word shall to may.
Yep.
Next page, page 4, we changed EMS director's monthly report to ambulance director's monthly report. And we took out the ordinance enforcement officer report, and that, so what was item 8, additional items got moved up to number 7. Item paragraph H, we added some clarification items for board action, board discussion, and information only. What the original proposal had was items for action, discussion. So this limits it to board action, board discussion. After all, it's a board meeting agenda. And board-related information.
We just need to take out that second board action in there in black.
Well, yes, you're right. Don't need it in twice.
Nope.
Okay, and public comment and township board member comment got reversed. Public comment should come before board comment, and in the proposal we looked at 2 weeks ago, it was the other way around. So the only reason that's in blue is we reversed those. Okay, nothing on the next page.
What page are you on now?
There is. I'm on page 5.
Yes, okay.
On
Okay.
page 4, you corrected typos on page 4. It's not the hair, it's the chair.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 times you did that.
I put, well, I
Capital
put,
letter.
Corrections.
Just capital letters on
I
there.
put capital letters in.
Share.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay,
Significant.
the hair.
That's why I say you have the original one. That's where
I
we
wish
made our
I had to do
changes.
it here.
I have,
We did make another change there. We took, in the original, there were actually 3 sections. The first one, the chair shall state each agenda. There was a second like paragraph, board members wishing to speak. And then a third one, a motion made and seconded shall be stated by the chair before discussion or voting. We moved that line and put it up with the second item. And that's fine. So that the
Yeah,
second
that's-
paragraph, the last sentence of that second paragraph had been a standalone, we moved it up.
Right.
Yep.
I didn't quite follow that.
Well, in the original document, we had,
Right.
instead of 2 paragraphs, we had 3.
Right,
And the third one, a motion made and seconded shall be stated by the chair before discussion or
Right.
voting. That was moved up behind the first sentence of the second statement.
okay,
So I got its location. in the
Right.
The location
Right.
moved around.
I see that. But
it's correct.
we had discrepancies on who chairs the meeting once the supervisor's gone, and it says in the absence of the supervisor, the deputy supervisor. That's not true. We were going to check that we were going to take that out, and we were going to take that line all the way out until it goes to the clerk.
Yes, says, first paragraph, below chairperson and eight.
According to MTA's books and everything. We had crossed off the deputy supervisor and all the way down to comma, the clerk.
Yep. All right.
Now I'm lost.
All right, so
What page are you
the
on?
first paragraph, page
Page
4, under chairperson,
Okay.
and I missed this.
And then, can we stop right there for a second? Because going all the way to page 7, it's the same exact repeat.
It's more than once throughout I highlighted it more than one time, that it keeps saying the same thing. The deputy supervisor.
Because
blah,
a
blah.
new one was added to 2.10, a new one, in the conduct of meetings, and it's the same exact thing. So I don't know why 2.10 was even added in there when it's already here.
Your attorney, Mr. Revore, wanted to be close.
Really?
Oh.
Emphasize the point. And
Okay,
I think the language is correct, that the supervisor and deputy supervisor are each absent. Then the statute says that the clerk shall call the meeting to order and entertain a motion to have the board appoint a chair.
but that doesn't say that here, Bob.
No, Bob is saying that.
And I understand,
To
Kathy.
include deputy clerk is correct, deputy supervisor. To include that is correct.
That is not correct.
He says yes, you say no.
Why is deputy supervisor not correct?
We had the MTA books out here, and we verified it.
Well, I've got the red book here. Let's take a look here.
Yeah, we had it. I didn't bring mine, but I should have brought my book too.
You can just go get it.
Get up and walk out.
Yeah, that's all right. This is a working session. We don't, we want to get to a conclusion, not,
Well, I can only say when I was deputy supervisor and Alan was hospitalized,
it's fine.
when there were board meetings, the clerk opened the meeting and asked for, no, I took over as being the manager of the meeting. And then if I wasn't there, Kathy took over and got a motion from the board to appoint someone else. Typically, they appointed Bill Peterson at that time. So let
Or
see.
me, or me.
Or Sharon, yeah, that's true too. Page 113.
Where was the other?
The other one is wherever two teams.
Deputy
Which is-
supervisor.
Must be page 7.
Okay, here it is in my writing here. That's what I have highlighted. It says, I'll read prior to that a little bit here. The deputy possesses all powers and duties of the supervisor during the supervisor's absence, sickness, death, or disability. The deputy, however, does not have the right to moderate or even vote at the township board meeting. With the supervisor's approval and the consent of the township board, the deputy does say may assist the supervisor at any other additional times agreed to by the board and by the supervisor. So the deputy need not be qualified, elector, whatever.
What number is that?
This is in the original small book, which is easier to read for me.
Yeah, but it's probably the same number in the new book.
It's under deputy supervisor.
Page 113, Bob?
114
114.
starts in.
All right. Now, is
It
there?
says the deputy, however, does not have the right to moderate the board, township board.
Yeah, that's true.
Is there a state statute that says something other than that, or?
Well, I didn't bring my statute with me, but yes, I think it's under the township.
We talk about it all the time at the board meetings.
No, I understand. It's just, if Revore is saying, put it in twice, then my question is, what's driving him to want to have it in there twice? I'm not saying you're wrong, Sharon. It's just
Right.
that I'm trying to figure out where he is getting.
Unless it's the heading, and I don't know what the heading means, because I couldn't figure that out myself.
I
So it's-
asked him that question, and he said, I want to make sure they understand the process.
Yeah.
So if they have to read it twice, that's better than reading it once.
Well, that's fine, but my question is, where's he getting his interpretation from that is different than what appears to be in the MTA? So let's put that one aside rather than killing ourselves. And we can go through and get everything else figured out. And if we have one open item, we'll get it figured out for the next meeting.
I think the language that's in the proposal is what you've been using for the last several years. That may be wrong in that, but
We really haven't had a deputy supervisor
You've
most of the
been the only
time.
other one,
Yeah,
yeah, I think I was the only one.
right. And
Until Bill.
so, because we never,
Yeah.
it always went to the clerk. And
Right. That's my recollection also.
Yeah, because I think Alan, if you remember, we had Deb help you out for a period of time. I don't think we made her the deputy.
Nope, we did
It was
not.
like a administrative assistant or something
Yep.
like that.
Yep.
All right, let's set this aside. We'll
What's
revisit.
your question?
My question to Mr. Revore is, if the MTA book says this and he is saying something that doesn't say that, then I need to understand where he's coming up with his comment.
Okay, so why is he not using the terminology in the Michigan?
In the MTA, right. There's,
Book?
correct.
Let me check, let's see if I brought one of your documents. I did check this, because this is the latest MCA or MTA policy recommendations. So let me go to 2.0. Well, that to be C.
Alan, you weren't in the room when I read that. Do you want me to read it to you again?
No, I know what it reads.
Okay.
I know what it reads, yes.
Hey, Bob, we'll just table it for now on this one. Mr. Revore will be able to answer it pretty quickly. All right, so we have one open item, which would be under the chairperson, and item 2.10. Is it 2.10, or did I,
2.6.
2.6, I'm sorry, guys. 2.16, maybe.
2.6 and actually 2.1, 10. How do you say it? 10. 2.10, yeah,
That was my 2.10, right?
correct.
All right. So we have,
5 is good.
no, that isn't, is it?
5 is good.
All right,
Page 5,
Maybe it's 5 is good.
and
Yes,
from line from the bottom,
right.
all right.
added. So I want to get clarification on what question I'm going to ask Mr. Revore.
I'll write that out.
But if we go to 2.6, paragraph A, chairperson, it's the first paragraph.
First paragraph, right.
Very good.
All right, so we are now on page 6.
This is all under the heading of meeting decorum and code of conduct. So there's some new language there. And Mr. Cook proposed last time we met.
Right, this goes to what we did at, with the 2.0 that we did in December discussion, and then January of this year, we passed it. So
Mhm.
we've just put that language back in.
Mhm.
All right?
That
7,
was previously approved by the board.
right. So page 7 then.
Page 7 is, I put that language in, and Mr. Revore agrees with it. The conduct of meetings, clarification, the township supervisor shall moderate and chair all meetings of the township board. In the absence of the supervisor, the deputy supervisor, if one is appointed, shall assume the duties of the chair. If the supervisor and the deputy supervisor are both absent, the clerk shall call the meeting to order and entertain a motion to appoint a chair for the meeting.
All right, that's
This is-
part of the discussion
And that's
from,
the question I have
Correct.
to ask.
Right.
Or why is this in there twice? Correct.
correct.
Okay.
Yep.
It's not that the language is,
Well, we want to,
Language is exactly the same.
We're questioning the deputy supervisor.
and what's the question regarding the deputy supervisor?
well, the question is that the deputy supervisor can't step in for the supervisor automatically. And so, Bob, what we can do, you and I can talk to Revore on this.
Okay. Very good. Okay, we'll keep moving along.
Yep,
Next page.
Well- page 7 at the bottom, last sentence.
Video.
Yeah, but you took out audio. You need to make that audio/video,
Audio/video is in the prior paragraph.
right? So you need to include it in the second paragraph.
Audio there also. Okay, my mistake.
And video means, for example, YouTube, Zoom, whatever.
Yep,
Yep.
Zoom, streaming live.
Whatever form of video.
All right, page 8.
Just the numbers changed because of terminology.
Page 9.
Now, page 8, I still had, maybe it was just my notes, but I had 3 hours in length. That stayed the same then, right?
Yes.
Okay, I
Yeah.
had just had notes in mine. I just didn't see it changed here, so must have not
Yeah,
got
it should be
changed.
3 hours unless the board agrees, if I remember.
Okay,
All right.
Page 10. At the bottom of the page, paragraph 2.18, Ordinance Adoption. The phrase at the end of the sentence, in that paragraph, for the public hearing on the proposed ordinance as acted. So it reads, following introduction of the proposed ordinance, the board may accept the proposed ordinance and set a date for the public hearing on the proposed ordinance as adopted. Just a clarification. The board doesn't have to hold a public hearing at that level. They can choose to. They want to have a public hearing. The board. It's already had a public hearing at the planning commission. If it's a proposed ordinance.
So it says the board may.
Yes, that's what it says in me.
Yep.
It's option, the board's option, basically.
Okay.
yeah, I have just modify in my notes here, so that's the modification here then.
Yeah. So,
But it didn't really change though, did it?
it changed in that we added more description. The original proposal had a period at the end of the word date in the third line. And set a date for what?
Well, mine didn't have it. Mine didn't have it. Mine looks exactly the same here as what my original is. So nothing got changed there in from what I could see.
That's fine. It's,
Yeah.
it
It's
reads the
exactly,
way we want it to read.
it's exactly the way it was originally, and I had question mark modified, but that's
All right.
okay. It didn't get modified, but that's okay.
All right. Page 11, Bob.
Page 11. Paragraph E. No, paragraph B. Which the B is on the other prior
Right.
page. I think there was a 5 business day
Right.
description that David Report's recommendation to change to 15 business days after publication. And a similar change in paragraph E,
Mhm.
publication after adoption, that is 30 days in statute. You can have a shorter period if you need to require to do ordinance.
Mhm.
That's his proposal.
So.
It becomes confusing about how many days for this and how many days for that.
So so business days is defined then, not as calendar days. So it would be your Monday through Friday excluding holidays.
Yes.
That would be my suggested definition of a business day. Monday through Friday excluding state and federal holidays. Be careful about excluding holidays because there are like 140
Yeah.
holidays, your calendar.
So basically, we're saying business days are Monday through Friday, period. I mean, if we're going to do this, do we need to put the definition in here?
I think that would be a good idea. So
All right.
business day is. Unfortunately, the state statute uses business days in one section, and it uses days in another, and has not moved off those two different ways of describing the number of days.
That's kind of like the sussing. You got this day after the first day, Monday, but there's so many legal descriptions of
Right.
dates on the calendar. It gets horrendously confusing.
So can we add the language, business days are defined as being Monday through Friday?
Sure.
All right,
Is that on page 11 we're doing that?
yes, at the top.
Okay.
It would follow the word publication period,
Okay.
and then business days are defined as being Monday through Friday.
I don't have my book, but is this true also for zoning as well as police power ordinances?
Yes,
15 days?
that's what we're trying to change it to. One of them currently goes into effect, I think. It's
Okay.
the top one here,
That-
5 days after 5 days. one.
So it satisfies the other one as well? Yeah, okay.
Just because, I don't know about you guys, but I always have to step back, look up the law, see what's going on.
Whatever days, yes. Well, we have calendar days that we have these posted on.
I would suggest we put the definition of business days in the definitions portion of the ordinance, also Article 23.
Oh, article.
And just put it in. Or we could just put business days there in the definitions.
That would be part of our rewriting of the ordinance, that,
Yeah.
okay.
And we don't even have to mention it in here. It'd be in the index.
Yeah, I would suggest you mention it there too.
Yep, no, duplication is not, as long as it's consistent.
Bob, I guess I've got to ask now, and I think about it. If one of those, and I don't know which one it is, says days and one says business days, we can't satisfy the days if we say business days for that one. Because we're saying it takes effect later than what it could be interpreted as just days.
You have a calendar of all the
Am I
postings,
am I wrong on that?
Well, that's-
all the different
that's a quandary.
things?
That's what
How-
we're trying to
No,
clean up.
when all these different things need to be
But if it
posted.
says days, your question, if I understand it correctly, is if it says days.
Well, we
instead of
have-
business
we have a
days, then the state
cheat sheet
statute says
That lists all
days,
that stuff.
and the state may define days differently than business days. But in another paragraph of that same statute, the state uses the term business days. And they created, this confusion was created
Yeah.
because of the days being used in one portion of the zoning code and business days in the other portion. And that discrepancy shows up when you're talking about how many days in advance you have to post a notice. Is it 15 business days or is it 15 days? Which the state interprets as a calendar. So we, David in particular, thought this would clear up that line.
Why don't we put both in there? Do we know we're right?
Which one's gonna apply?
I see what you're saying, because it's in the
Yeah,
same
you
law.
can't.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can always do an either or statement.
Kathy, what's been our practice?
Well, I think we need to look at our
I-
cheat sheet and have those days that we've had, each days of everything that needs to be looked at. We should relook at that again.
Alan, if it says business days, I count Monday through Friday. If it doesn't specify, because I've asked the attorney about it or MTA about it. If it doesn't specify by saying business days, then it's calendar days.
Yeah. That's,
And so whichever way it's worded in the red book, that's what I go by.
In the newspaper article, you indicate usually the day of its effective date. So maybe that's what we go by.
Well, yeah, but you have to get to the effective date.
Right. Right. What constitutes that effective date?
So in this case, this policy governs what the board does. So if the board passes something, with this policy, we're stating now that we are doing business days, which would then automatically translate into the effective date, because that's what we're basing it on.
But are we doing it with the board dates that we're setting versus statutory legal dates?
Well, I think that's what Bob was just saying, is the statute, legal dates are fluctuating.
Right.
The,
So I don't want to miss something that should legally be done and it's not, because,
I would like Sharon to clarify what she's talking about, the township days. And I think what you're referring to is the list of traditional holidays that fall on Mondays through Fridays.
no.
No.
This policy board dates 15 business days versus being in the policy versus what's really legally posted as to how it's supposed to be.
You mean the statute?
Statute, yes.
And I think
So
that's
what overrides what?
well, that's what Bob is saying, is that there's two things in the statute, right?
The board has the discretion to require fewer days than the state. So if the state says it takes effect in 30 days, and the board says 15, then the board's position of 15 days applies, because 15 days is within the 30 days.
Right.
That's already in the statute. So it's not a problem for the board to make it tighter
Right,
in terms of the number of days before things go into effect. But you can't do the opposite.
so what happens if something says it's got to be posted within 10 days and we're already out at 15? So we have to make sure,
That's fine.
yeah. Anyway,
Right.
I think it's as part of the policy for the time being, based on, because nobody's come up and said it's got to be 10 days, right? That our 15 days in either case is within the 15 days as defined in the state statute.
Or within the 30 days.
Right. So we'll go with the business days are defined as Monday through Friday, and we'll use 15 days. And we have time between now and when we do a final approval, that if we see something different,
yeah,
then we can change it. But the idea here is we can settle on this for now.
Right.
And then adjust as according.
Monday through Friday, excluding Memorial Day and Labor Day.
And July 4th, if it happens to come on Monday.
As it does.
Well,
And there's other holidays
Yeah.
that could fall on Monday.
That's always going to be an issue.
Christmas could fall on a Monday.
But I think that went back to business days are just, we're defining it as Monday through Friday regardless of holidays. We're not saying that it excludes holidays. We're just saying business days, we're defining business days as Monday through Friday, period. Well, the idea would, again, we can go around and around. Let's put a stake in the ground, and between the time we evaluate final approval, because this item is still going to be open. It's still 2.0, so
Sure.
we got to come back and revisit it at the next meeting anyway.
Right. But
In the meantime, we can get that calendar out of
Right.
what everything needs to be and days and postings. I know there's a chart flow here.
That's fine. We'll get it before our next meeting.
Okay, moving on.
But you want whatever definition we end up using in the definitions portion. of
Correct.
Ordinance 2,
Yep.
Article 20.
Yep.
If you were to say in this policy that we would only approve ordinances at the regular board meeting of a month, would that then allow us to know when that day is, that it must be published? As opposed to a special meeting? And we could pinpoint those almost yearly.
That certainly limit your opportunities to approve ordinance language to only your regular meetings. So you could do that on 12 dates a year.
I've not, I don't think of special meetings for ordinance approval, though. Usually it was emergency stuff and odds and ends.
Ordinance approval at a special meeting. For the special meeting, you're supposed to state the purpose of the meeting. So in the special meeting notice, you can say the purpose of this meeting is to approve a new ordinance language for blah, blah, blah.
Well, my thinking is that the general influence of an ordinance is overall. It's larger than just a small, minute thing. So you have much more attention to it on a regular meeting. Just a thought. Then we could pinpoint we could pinpoint yearly where the dates, where we have to do, how we can date it from those regular meetings. Just a thought.
I'm looking at the documents that you emailed to us, and we had a memorandum from River Law Firm about ordinance enactment. Are we going to look at that one today?
Well, it's probably appropriate to look at it right now.
Right, yeah, because it basically gives a good summary
Let's look at
of days. Do this, this, this. My only question was the difference what they're calling a general law ordinance is what I think we've been calling police power.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would ask that the name be changed, but other than that, so if it's a police power, it takes effect the day after publication if there are no sanctions.
You're on the second page of that.
I'm on his cover sheet, actually, but probably the same thing. Anyway, yes, the second page, just as good. And I thought, after reading that, I thought, well, I can figure it out. Where I got tripped up in the past is not realizing that there was a difference between zoning ordinance and police power ordinance. And the days, the time frame is different. And that's where I got us in trouble with publications, is because I was looking in the red book on the wrong page. So this helps, and I think this is, just like Sharon said, maybe a little check sheet. If it's a police power ordinance, blah, blah, blah. If it's a zoning ordinance, blah, blah, blah.
So at the bottom of the first page of the memo, he's citing that statute, 41.184.
Yep,
About the effective date of township ordinance. Goes on to say, at the top of the next page, the township ordinance shall take effect as follows. If an ordinance imposes a sanction for the violation of the ordinance shall take effect 30 days after the first publication of the ordinance. So that is a police power ordinance. It's police power ordinances are violations, actions that are violations, and zoning ordinance define land uses.
yeah, that's what how she described it to me. Land is zoning ordinance. It has to do with land.
Yep. And police power has to do with the actions of people. So then he says, if an ordinance does not impose a sanction for the violation of the ordinance shall take effect the day following the date of the publication of the ordinance, or following publication specified in the ordinance. And then number 3, publication of the ordinance shall be made within 30 days after the passage of the ordinance by inserting either a true copy or a summary of the ordinance one time meeting in the newspaper circulating within the township.
So how are we doing these dates then?
So let's go through the next paragraph and then we'll get to your question because we have to answer that. So it says in some cases for general law ordinance, a public hearing is not necessary. However, I would recommend a public hearing for all ordinances. This is David, the board speaking. I've amended policy 2.0, section 17B from 5 days to 15 days as noted in the yellow highlight. Also, while current township policy requires publication of the ordinance within 10 days, the law allows for 15 days for a zoning ordinance. So I've amended that policy to reflect 15 days. The township is free to shorten the time from 15 days. The distinction must be made. The zoning ordinance amendment must be published within 15 days. And cites the statute. The general law ordinance must be published within 30 days.
That's not work days. That's days,
Right,
Yeah,
That's calendar day.
calendar days.
that's
So
what I said, if it,
Start using days of calendar and
mhm.
the way we were doing it before would be. Okay.
wow. Back to Sharon's question, how are we going to handle this? And I can take the coward's way up and say, how are you going to handle this? This is your policy. No, I think David tried to help, but I don't think
You don't think it did?
it's not crystal clear.
I was
Right.
gonna say it was as clear as mud,
Let's
actually.
let's put a bullseye on that and look at a format that we have.
Yep.
And come to some consensus the next time around.
You,
Bullet
sounds
point
like
it.
you have used something here. in the
There
office
are
works.
formats.
Yep.
I don't, you
All right.
kept saying that, and I don't know what you're
Alan had
referring
made
to, so.
Formats,
okay.
dates and everything when published.
And I don't,
I don't know what that says. You know, it seems to me also the
Have it.
MTA book was very confusing about it as well.
It's not clear in the red book, it's not clear in this policy.
well, they're trying to tell you when you need to publish. Then they're trying to tell you, okay, after you publish, you got this many days,
Right.
or you have this many days if there's, violations of, and it isn't easy to define.
And interestingly, and this is me dragging politics into this discussion, our legislators don't want to change it. Because if you change it here, it causes a negative reaction there, depending on what your politics. Yeah. So that's why it hasn't been cleared up. for a long time.
All right, so we'll leave,
More to come. I'll
yeah.
work on this.
Litigation.
Litigation, we had quite a bit of discussion on that.
Can you tell me?
Last time, and there's
Can you help me know what page we're on?
14.
We got that far, huh?
yeah, there were no changes after
Today's
that.
proposal.
Yeah, there was topic discussion on that one, so. I was trying to compare to what we had already, and there was obviously changes in here.
The primary change here was to add the term extenuating circumstances. And in that first section at the top of page 14, it says the initiation of any lawsuit, litigation, claim, blah, 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 or other legal proceeding shall require the majority vote of the township board, except where there are extenuating circumstances. That was not in the language as we looked at 3
Right.
weeks ago. So what are extenuating circumstances? Defined as an emergency situation that cannot wait until a special or regular meeting of the board, or a situation in which the violation of any state or federal or local ordinance constitutes a public nuisance or otherwise endangers the public, and in which the continued existence of such a condition, emergency, or violation shall be detrimental to the health, welfare, and or safety of the township or its constituents. Extenuating circumstances also include any situation where the continued existence of any condition, emergency, or violation may jeopardize any condition, emergency, or violation may jeopardize the legal position of the township in securing the intended remedy in any lawsuit, litigation, claim for injunctive relief, writ of mandamus, or other legal proceeding. Now, this language comes right out of this MTA policy book. And this is their newest one. I just got this less than a year ago. And so that's a direct.
Did they say what some of those circumstances were? I mean, we can do a meeting in 18 hours.
I was wondering the same thing, like what would cause us to not be able to wait?
Well, what if, for example, your propane tank explodes?
Right. Our building caught on fire.
Yeah.
Well, what would that, why would
We
we
had
be
a bomb
initiating a
threat.
lawsuit at that point?
Chinese are coming?
That's a, I used to do that, take care of that.
No, but if the propane tank blew up, that, I mean, where would a lawsuit, I mean,
Maybe somebody got in and filed a lawsuit. I don't know, but.
it seems extreme, but
We're
again, it doesn't hurt
covered.
anything. But who makes that decision then?
Litigation shall require.
The next blue paragraph down answers that
Okay,
question. I think.
see it? Okay, thanks.
The township board reserves the authority to authorize and direct the course and conduct of any lawsuit, litigation, claim, or injunctive relief, writ of mandamus, or other legal proceeding, notwithstanding its initiation for extenuating circumstances. In our discussion 3 weeks ago, we were talking about the role and function of the zoning administrator in minor civil infractions and whether or not they had the legal authority from the board to go ahead and initiate a lawsuit at the county level if somebody didn't pay their infractions.
Yeah.
And the recommendation from David and me too is leave it in the hands of the board. Anything that goes to court should be, in our opinion, approved
Initiated.
by the majority of the board, period. Even if the zoning administrator files municipal civil infractions, and it gets to the point that he or she has issued 3 or 4 of them, and the person has not responded, has not paid them, has not changed the behavior, then they come to the board and talk it over with the board. And it's the board's decision, not their decision, to pursue litigation.
And to Alan's point, we could just do a special meeting, 18 hours to discuss that.
I think you could, yes.
But does not the ticket automatically go to the court?
Yes,
And they set a date for some kind of hearing?
and they might impose a fine, and
People doesn't have to show up.
the person didn't show up to the hearing, they didn't pay, they showed up, but said, heck with it, I'm not paying, and, or just you get no response from them. They don't come to the hearing, and they don't pay, and you issue another one, and the same thing happens, well,
It's like getting blood out of a turnip. You
yeah,
can't do
you
it.
get involved in those kind of responses from people, which is a non-response, basically. At that point, the zoning administrator should bring it to the board. In our opinion.
Well, Todd showed up at all those appointments, all those dates. Todd was there as our prosecutor.
Well, that's at the court.
Yeah, at the court.
When the court set the date and nothing had been done prior to that, Todd went with the zoning administrator.
But we directed him to follow up with the court to file that. So Todd got his directions to do that from somebody, and that's what we're trying to define who did that.
I don't think it was clear. I don't remember that I'm saying to Todd, do that. I think it just was automatic. But if you want to put that in writing, you can. But,
Well, I think that's the issue now.
Okay.
It's not been right.
okay.
Well, so isn't it a problem if our zoning administrator writes a ticket? That's initiating,
Anybody. can
that's
write a ticket.
initiating a lawsuit, and the board had nothing to say about it. So does the zoning administrator need to consult with the board before a ticket is issued?
No.
A civil
I
infraction
don't
rule?
think so, because I think the board has already acted to authorize that action on the part of.
I can write a ticket.
Okay,
You could write a ticket.
Okay.
I can write a ticket.
so it says, but it says the initiation needs to be approved by the board. And I'm
Right.
just saying that sometimes the initiation happened before the board got a chance to approve it.
No,
Depends
no,
on what it is.
no, I think there's two actions. One is the issuance of the ticket. The second one is the execution of the ticket. So
Well,
what the board said in the zoning is that the zoning administrator and a couple of us have the authority to write the ticket, but we shouldn't have the right to then go to Todd and say, file a lawsuit or go to court for the collection of this. What we're saying is the ticket is done, that's fine, we've allocated that authority, the board has, but that's as far as you go. Then they come to the board and say, the person hasn't signed it, do I take it to the attorney? The board says yes.
okay, I'm just reacting to what Alan said, that when a civil infraction is issued, it automatically goes to court. Is that not what you said?
No.
But it doesn't.
No, it does. Its
No,
copy is
no.
mailed to the court. No, when the person gets a ticket, the copy is mailed to the court. They set a date.
So that's why
We don't have a
that's
way
why-
of collecting money here. We don't have a way of collecting money.
That's why I'm confused.
And there was quite a bit of process before that ticket was ever issued. Letters, warnings,
Right.
timelines.
That's
Um,
the second step, Kathy.
And no, when the ticket was issued, a copy went to the court, they set a date for a hearing.
That's when they don't pay. Tickets are issued initially.
Well,
If they
yeah,
don't
but,
respond or don't pay, then you
but that's,
you have X amount of days to pay it, then you.
But this
execute
is
it from that
saying
point.
that the ticket needs to be approved by the board. If
no.
it's initiating any kind of litigation, it needs to be
Well, when it
approved
gets
by
to
the
that point
board.
of litigation, yeah, but that's not initially.
No, I think, Alan, the process, my understanding is they issue a ticket. That person has the option of paying the ticket
Or
or
fighting
not
it.
paying the ticket
Yes,
or challenging the ticket.
that's correct.
Now, if in fact, because nothing happens at that point, because why would you go to court if the person's going to pay?
Right.
The court's going to look at it and you say, you haven't given the person a chance to pay it yet. So
I think we should check on that.
that's fine, but the process
Check
at
on
least as
what?
I've seen it, is the tickets are issued, we wait to see if they pay, and when they don't pay, give them a chance to pay, and if they continue, then you say, okay, do we take it to Todd, have it to go to court, and then we mail in all the information to the court, because now we're going to the court for relief for non-payment.
That sounds good, but I don't remember it being like that.
That's fine.
That
We'll-
is
we'll go
how it is.
verify.
We did a lot of tickets at the county, and I did dog violations and anything. It's
That's
civil
fine.
infraction is given out, and they pay it. And I get the tickets, and they mail the ticket in with their payment, Alan. And if
You
they
should
don't
go
want to
do-
pay it, then it goes on beyond that.
Okay, I guess we should look at the record and see what we did or didn't do. I don't remember.
Well,
That's
yeah,
fine.
it's like the park. We issue tickets out there. Tickets come in, they receipt it, I receipt the money in, they pay it. If they don't pay it, then it goes on from litigation from that point.
Carbon
Okay.
copies don't go to the court until
We can't collect the money because you only go to court for relief.
That's right. It's correct.
So anyway,
Sharon, who do they pay the money to? Us directly?
Mm-hmm.
So you now have been collecting ticket money. I didn't realize that.
There for a while, Deb wasn't putting the information when she was working here. She would put it to the to the district court. She didn't cross off things and then the district court would send it back to us. I'd say, I can't accept this check because it's made out to district court. So she'd have to send it back to the people, say, you need to make it out to Torch Township. So yeah, there was a lot of back and forth stuff quite often.
Okay. That'll work.
Always
Okay.
worked that way.
so I think as of right now,
It may work that way, but that's not what this says. That's my problem.
it does say that.
It does, but it doesn't. Anyway, it's not to be argued about. I'm not going to argue right now. Do you
Wow.
understand my, not concern, my question
Question.
about the wording?
Well, it needs to be clear and unambiguous.
What
Good.
word
If
is, what
it's
word,
not,
Kathy?
then we should try
It's
to-
the whole sentence, the initiation of a lawsuit,
Okay.
litigation, et cetera. And what I heard Alan say is if
He
you
was
give
wrong.
them a ticket, it automatically goes to court.
Well,
That's
apparently it does-
litigation.
Kathy, apparently it did not.
No, that's
Okay,
the wrong
okay,
part.
so that's where my confusion is.
Yeah.
And I understand everything you said after that. We give them a chance to pay, blah, blah.
That's right. This is exactly right.
So could this say, well, never mind.
No, this is exactly right.
That last blue paragraph on page 14.
Mm-hmm.
So
So then, once we do this, then it looks like we may need to do, where would we outline that authority? Would we put it as a subset within the policy, or would we have to put that in the zoning ordinances?
I would put it in,
That's confusing for you.
and you may not have this, but an administrative procedure or administrative guideline rather than policy, because it's, how do you implement this policy? So come up with an administrative guideline, okay, how do we handle this? Step one, issue the ticket, step two.
All right. Okay,
It's all written on the ticket itself, the actions.
A lot of it, yeah.
Yeah.
all right.
So, but more to come. We'll,
Don't invent a new wheel
We're going
here.
to talk about this more, because I sense some questions, and as you talk and ask questions, how do I get thinking about this or that, so.
So from a quick process standpoint, we have two items
Yeah.
that we need to come back to the board with. The first one is the ordinance adoption. And the second
Dates.
one is litigation.
Adoption.
Is it 15 days?
Okay,
Is it
well,
calendar
before
days?
that, we
Dates.
had supervisor.
Yeah,
All right, supervisor, you're correct.
2.10,
Supervisor's one, the dates is the second one.
2.6 and 2.10.
Supervisor slash deputy supervisor.
And it's in there twice, question mark.
2.6, 2.10.
So that would be the two things. Is litigate, are we comfortable with litigation as is?
I am.
I'm comfortable with it as is. Jason? All right, Ellen,
It's
you're all
okay.
set?
Yeah.
All right, and Kathy, at this point, with the clarification, are you all set?
With clarification, I'm all set.
Okay, so we have two open items, Bob, and we'll bring this back up when we have our next meeting. Okay? All right, board, we have 30 minutes. The next item will be item 3.0.
Before we go, oh, never mind, it's in this one here coming up. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead of time.
Are you jumping ahead or?
Yeah, I'm jumping ahead.
All right. So 3.0, as we did before, we did a process by which a person started with questions. And once they were done, then we kept going through the board one at a time. And the good thing of that, it seemed that when the first person asked questions, it eliminated the questions from others' lists. So my understanding, and Bob, you can clarify this, the code of ethics and conflict of interest is almost everything that comes out of the statute. You know, the guidelines.
Certainly, a portion of it is primary sources for this code of ethics came out of state statute, which has some ethical standards that are part of the state law, but
Yep.
should be in policy too. And the conflict of interest statutes that you, I think, are familiar with, that you have to state that you have a potential conflict of interest. The board has to decide whether or not an individual board member does, but the failure to raise that kind of thing is not ethical.
So the reason I say that is that there's very little in here. I had no comments on 2.0. I mean, I will lead off.
With 3.0,
Yeah, with
I only have
3.0.
like one thing or a couple of things myself.
just
That's,
let me make another comment here. This stuff, David Revore tells me he spent a lot of time this year developing this ethics and conflict of interest policy for one of his major clients. And we are according to David, the benefactors of that, because he did all this time and research and billable hours, and they paid for it all. And he used his latest research of what's included in statute. And
that's why we
put
say
in
we
this
don't have too much
proposal.
changes.
Yeah.
So can we give David Revore a whoop whoop?
Can I just go to page 2? There's
Yeah.
only one thing on page 2 that
That's
I'd like to
fine.
make comment with.
Are you on 3.0?
I
3.0,
just wanted to know,
yes.
I'm confident David is right. I read it through it all. I didn't see any problematic
Yeah,
areas.
I didn't either.
Go ahead.
Number 2, at the very bottom, I would like it, when it says the Township of Torch Lake, I would like comma, Antrim County.
Where
There
you?
are 2 Torch Lake townships in Michigan, and I can test that I get all the Houghton County information, mail, emails, phone calls.
Which
You're
page
looking
are
at
you on?
3.0, page 2?
Yes,
Page 2 at the very bottom.
Yep.
Just wants to add
Just
Antrim
add
County.
Antrim County, that's a good suggestion.
The Township
and
of Torch Lake?
I know Sharon is right, because I had the same experience.
oh, this tax season, I can't tell you how many checks I got, and then phone calls and emails.
Yep.
They just look up Torch Lake Township, and A is first, and it comes up, and so they send everything to me.
Hey, we'll take your fee.
Ours is
I
a
would
lot
say-
prettier.
I got ballots and ballot applications
So if
as
we
well.
could just put comma, Antrim County in there, that would be, that's
All
my
right.
first suggestion.
Kathy, any comments?
No.
Alan?
On 3.0, we're dealing
3.0,
with,
yes, sir.
you want me to go through all of my stuff?
Yeah.
All your comments, yep.
Okay. The section, by the way, in the very second paragraph under statement of purpose, I went through those laws. And basically, that's exactly what Bob is saying. These parallel what is said in state law and federal laws as well. And it's, all the things about bids and contracts also are stated there. So I felt comfortable with that statement that Bob said. I'm on another second. My notes here.
What page are you on?
I'm on page 3, excuse me. Oh, and number 4, when I looked at number 4, mischaracterization of options, and it says here, public officials shall not represent their view or their personal opinion as being that of the township. But in my work in the township, I've always worked at wondering what people want done. And so I always, especially on areas that affect them personally. So I've always said, when I make a point about something like that, it's rarely just an opinion kind of thing. It's the kind of thing I've done some talking to people, research, that kind of thing. And so, I mean, that's always been what I thought I was supposed to do, is to try to represent the people of the township and not Alan Martell under any shape or form. So again, I think that seems contrary to what we ought to be doing.
Well, I think what they're saying is that if it's your personal opinion, say it's your personal opinion, but don't say the township believes this or the township thinks this, when in fact they're saying that to do that may misrepresent what the township or some of the other township people think. So you can have your personal opinion as a township trustee, but that doesn't mean that you're representing the township's opinion on that same subject.
I understand what you're saying. The only thing is I wish it would say that, but this is, I wish it would say it that way.
So
That
how about,
our attempt is to try to be representative
This is kind of like,
of the township. You've reminded me a lot of that as being, we are one vote equally, and we have representation.
well, that's why I always say like MTA, that's their policy motto is speak with one voice when it comes to your township.
well, that's what the result.
Right,
That's the result of the board action.
right.
It's not walking around and talking about personal opinion. Now, what I'm thinking of is a public, for instance, I'm just throwing out, a public official may express a personal opinion, but not represent it as the township position.
I think if we put the word board, using number 4 mischaracterization, if we put the word board after the word township at the end of the sentence, because there's different meanings for township. Alan's context was the people in the township, is in the township that he represents their interests. That the intent of this language is that individual board members.
Yep. Bob
Cook doesn't go out and talk to constituents and say, well, here's what we're going to do at the board.
Right.
And it's expressing his opinion, but making it look like it's the board's already
Exactly.
made the decision on that.
Exactly.
Right.
He or anybody else on the board doesn't have that kind of authority.
I think putting the board after the word township would be appropriate. Because really, I mean, unless you want to include, and what, like the PC and the ZBA, I mean, the board should not walk around and say, hey, the PC is doing this, or the ZBA is going to do that.
Yeah, the township is, just leaving the word township is too open-ended. I mean,
Right.
township what? Township EMS,
Right.
township fire, township park, I mean,
Well, another way of saying it is just be very careful when you're discussing township issues with people other than the board, that they understand you're giving your point of view, your perspective, your thoughts, but it's not representative of what the board is saying. Write that down. That was pretty good for me. You don't know. Kathy said.
we're gonna ask Kathy to remind her next month.
Well,
Remind me tomorrow.
how about if you say?
You don't need to rewrite it. I did take my smart pill today.
Public officials shall not represent their view or their personal opinion as that of the township board.
Right. I mean, it's all right there. It's just.
I think that helps it.
Yeah, I think it's stated well.
Ellen, which one helps?
What you just stated, taking out the being as that of the township board.
So just remove the one word being.
And add the word board.
Yep.
So at number 4, eliminate the word be.
Being, yes.
in the
And add
last
board.
line. So it would read as that of the township board.
Correct.
I would do the same on number 5.
Yes.
Not eliminate the word be because it isn't there, but it applies to public officials.
Oh, so it says,
Wait,
Maybe not positions.
now you got,
So now we got those township officials
it's everybody.
appointed and signed here.
Ellen, what else do you have? That was a good one.
Okay. I'm looking at discussions. We have very few discussions with this board anymore.
where is that?
And number
Alan?
20 on page 6.
Page 6?
And I think it's contrary to the way you ran things, Bob. We had right on the front end, lots of discussions, just so you could get a feeling for a direction.
We could go back.
I have nothing to say about that, except that, I have nothing to say about that. Number 21,
Well, Alan, I don't understand. Do you have an issue with 20 or not?
well,
It's not discussing,
I look at, we're all very able, intelligent people, and we do get charged up once in a while. I'll raise my hand to being guilty of that. And I don't think we ever intend to be abusive or that kind of thing.
well, we have it in our 2.0.
Yeah, it's true. Just a second. All right, let's forget about 20, but let me go down to 21.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. Look on 21. Then that covers the last sentence of 21, covers what we just covered, previous page.
I was going to.
Yeah, right. Okay, that's done. All right.
All right.
So, well, let's stop there a minute because we might not need to add that phrase. 21 says the last sentence, when presenting their individual opinions and positions, officials shall explicitly state that these positions do not represent those of the township board members or the township.
Correct.
So do we take out 4 completely?
I don't think so.
Because you've just said that, your mischaracterization of opinions is just defined on there in discussions. So could you call it mischaracterization of opinions / discussions and just change the title of it?
I think in 21, it's written better.
I do too. I'd leave them both in.
Well, then,
Ellen, what did you just say?
I'd leave them
them
both in.
Leave them both in.
all right, so then would you replicate the same language for mischaracterization of opinions?
I would leave it the way.
Yep.
Okay,
I would too.
that's fine. All right.
I think it's stated more clearly.
I think,
Can we make it bold print? When presenting your individual opinion.
all right. So consensus is that. So Alan, you got anything else?
Just a second, I'm on page 8.
Written.
Okay, I'm just looking at number 5. I guess I sort of understand it. Is any person, anyone in the township, or is it us? Okay, that's fine. I don't see a problem with it.
All
Okay,
right.
that's it.
All right, thank you. Jason, you're good? I stated I was good, so if there's no other comment, then policy 3.0 has been reviewed and is now moved to the resolution package with the changes made. We will now move to policy 4.0. We have 15 minutes, board. The question is, it may take us longer than 15 minutes. Do you want to put 4.0 off to our next meeting?
Yeah, because I would like to talk about these other documents that Bob sent us, like the email retention of records. Did that not come from you?
Yeah.
It did, right?
Yes.
But that would
And
go
that-
for a different.
Of course, that's another
That's a different
more than
policy.
15-minute
Yeah.
discussion.
That's a different policy.
Yes, I know.
We can talk about those. My personal preference would be to look at section 4.0.
To do what?
Look at section 4.0 and see if we can, that's had some work. This 4.0 financial administration is the old policy 5.0, I believe. And it got approved by the board as written at the time in 2012. And I'm not sure it got used a lot because there were times when I was told, this was after I left supervisorship, that we never, the township never approved that.
Right. I would like more time to look at this too.
And
Yep.
that's fine, but my point is that a lot of this language has been reviewed by your auditor, Todd or Tim?
Trent.
Trent.
Trent. Well, started with a T.
Another T.
But he's reviewed it. I know Bob has reviewed it. I know Sharon has reviewed it and handed me some more information today. My point is, and David Revore has reviewed also. And having said that, you can decide what you want to do with it, and if you want to put it on the next meeting agenda as
Well,
the item of business.
so let's do this. We'll start with questions, and we'll see how far we get in the next 15 minutes.
I haven't spent a lot of time. I mean, I looked at it briefly, but I got numbers for like 4.2. Everybody got it from
All right.
Adam Gondolfi.
Yep,
So those numbers are kind of in there. If we need different numbers, because I don't know, the numbers he gave me, I don't know if they fit into what we're looking at here.
all right.
That's what I didn't have time to look at, so I'm not prepared to look at these numbers and how they fit in here, so. There's other things in there talking about the EMS billing clerks and all these types of things that I'm not comfortable with.
Can we start at the beginning and
I'm not
start?
ready for,
Well,
there's a lot
just,
of,
Oh, I did see that.
All right, well, for 15 minutes, let's postpone it, Bob.
That's fine.
What we'll do is we'll work on the numbers that Sharon has given us so that we're not taking a lot of time. We can redo this. I would ask the board members, if you have questions, if you would forward them to me ahead of time. Since you've reviewed 4.0, if you have the questions, send them to me. Bob and I can look at them. If they're easily correctable, fine. If not, then we can start the meeting with them and then see if there's any incremental questions. But if you get me those questions ahead of time, we can get a head start for the next meeting.
you won't get any from me this week.
That's fine. Our next meeting is
2 weeks.
Going on honeymoon,
2 weeks, right?
October 8th?
October 8th.
47 year honeymoon.
So if everybody could get questions to me by October 4th or 5th, that would be great.
October 5th, that's my youngest son's birthday.
So we'll give you a present on that day, which is
Our
the
next
questions.
meeting, our next meeting is the 10th.
October 10th, all right. So if you get them
Oh,
to
no,
me.
never mind. I'm looking at September.
Yeah.
It is the
The
8th.
8th, so let's try to get them to me by the
And that's a
5th.
1:00 meeting.
Yep, 5th, October 5th.
Well, I'm not gonna get it all to you then, but I can get it. It's like-
We can work together.
Yeah.
I
So-
want to make a comment on Sharon's numbers that she got from Adam Gandolf.
Adam Gandolfi.
I thought I said that, but,
I didn't hear you.
okay.
Tell Kathy.
Sharon worked very hard and made several phone calls to Adam going back a few months. And she finally got these things today,
Yesterday,
yesterday. And so in the meantime,
we can,
I came up with a screwy idea. And my screwy idea was to take the numbers that were in the old policy put together in 2012 and go to the Consumer Price Index online, U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics.
it's what you told
Pull
me.
out the Consumer Price Index increases for Detroit, all areas, meaning all, healthcare, labor, and all this stuff. And get the increase in the Consumer Price Index and add that to the figures that were put in 2012. That's where the numbers highlighted in yellow are. And I want to make sure they're high enough. David Revor's comments to me was that, and I think he made some comments in his memo, that one of those figures had to be at least $5,000. We had clients that would put in $10,000 in there. But anyway, I want to thank Sharon because she,
Because if we need to change some of these with our own policy, we can look at these too. So,
Yeah.
and I don't know exactly where everything fits because there are other
Right.
highlighted areas throughout the pages in here.
I think the 5,000 was related to assets. How much,
yeah.
what's the minimum amount are you going to put into your balance sheet for assets versus writing them off as expense?
Okay, anyway, that's my only
Yep.
comment.
That's fine. So questions to me on 4.0 by October 5th. We will see you October 8th at 1 PM. Once again, thank you very much. Do we have any citizen comment? Do we have any board comment?
I have one more set of documents and I'm not sure, I'm not sure
Well,
now if they're from Bob or not, about wetlands, marijuana, recreational vehicles, home occupation. Did I copy that off from you?
no.
No, okay, then
That's
it's,
not one I sent in the
Okay.
last couple of weeks.
I have to figure out who sent me this.
Okay.
I'll take a look at it.
Okay.
Any other board comment? If not, I make the motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
252.
Meeting is adjourned.
Hey, you guys, thank you. We'll get there.
Yes.
At what
Well,
time,
this is,
Sharon?
252.
Not easy.